Usually when we think about the internet, we picture it as something outside of us, right?
Oh, definitely. Like a tool we reach for.
Exactly. It's the Wi-Fi router sitting on your desk.
Yeah.
Or it's the invisible signal routing streaming video to your smart TV. Or, maybe it's just the watch on your wrist passively counting your steps.
Yeah. The boundary is usually super clear.
Right. There is you, the biological human, and then there's the network, the digital machine.
And that boundary has really defined our relationship with technology for decades. We treat the internet as this external infrastructure. I mean, we choose to tap a screen, we interact with it, and crucially, we can choose to just put it down and walk away,
But imagine a scenario where that boundary just evaporates.
which is pretty terrifying to think about.
It really is. What if the internet wasn't just in your pocket? What if right now it was actually flowing through your bloodstream, silently tracking your biological data at a cellular level, and maybe even gently nudging your daily thoughts without you ever realizing it?
It completely shatters the illusion of separation. We are looking at a profound biological and technological crossover that feels, frankly, like a science fiction novel. But the underlying mechanics are already being deployed.
And that is the mission of today's Deep Dive. We are exploring how the collision of microscopic technology, neuroscience, and artificial intelligence is rapidly building what researchers call cybernetic societies.
Yeah, and today we're basing our conversation on the really extensive research of Dirk Helbing.
Right.
He's mapped out how quantum computing and nanotechnology are basically merging to create a world where human biology and global networks are inextricably linked.
It's massive, and Helbing's research maps out a trajectory that connects everyday conveniences we are highly familiar with, like smartphones and wearable tech to advancements in cognitive science that most of us haven't even begun to consider.
It really connects the dots from the stuff on our wrists to the stuff inside our heads.
Exactly. And just to set the stage for you listening, we are going to impartially unpack the reality of this convergence.
Right, looking at both sides of it.
Yeah. We will look at the incredible promises of these technologies, like the potential to eradicate diseases before they even form, alongside the profound ethical risks to human agency. We just want to ensure you are well informed on a future that is already unfolding step by invisible step.
Because to really understand how we get to an internet inside the body, we have to look at the evolution of sensors. Like, consider the Internet of Things, or IoT.
Oh yeah, the smart fridges, the smart thermostats.
Exactly.
And the dozen or so sensors packed into a standard smartphone, right? The ones measuring your GPS location, your physical acceleration, even the ambient light in the room.
Yeah, but those are macro-level sensors. I mean, they're built on a human scale to monitor our external environment. But a causal transition is happening right now in manufacturing and physics.
What kind of transition?
Well, that exact same tracking and communication technology is shrinking down to the nanoscale. It's becoming completely invisible to the naked eye.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because nanoscale is one of those buzzwords that gets thrown around so much it almost loses its meaning.
Oh, for sure.
We are talking about something less than 100 nanometers. To put that in perspective, that is 1/10,000th of a millimeter.
It's so tiny.
It is smaller than a bacteria. It is so infinitesimally small it can comfortably fit inside a single biological cell.
And pushing technology to that scale changes the entire paradigm of what a machine even is. Helbing's research focuses heavily on a phenomenon called converging technologies.
Specifically the NBIC convergence, right?
Yes, exactly. NBIC. That stands for nanotechnology, biotechnology, information technology, and cognitive science.
It sounds like 4 completely different college majors suddenly realized they were digging a tunnel toward the exact same center point.
That is a perfect way to visualize it. I mean, for a long time, these fields operated in silos. A computer scientist wasn't necessarily talking to a brain surgeon or a materials engineer.
Right.
But at the nanoscale, biology and machinery start to speak the exact same physical language. Nanotech is already a multi-billion-dollar market.
Oh, absolutely.
It's actively revolutionizing agriculture, construction materials, and precision medicine.
Think of the internet not as a web of computers anymore, but as a shrinking microscopic net that is being woven into the very fabric of biological life. It's the ultimate upgrade from smart devices to smart biology.
Yeah, you see this in targeted cancer treatments, for example.
Right, where nanoparticles are engineered to float through the bloodstream, bypass healthy tissue, and deliver drugs directly to a specific diseased cell.
What's fascinating here is that these NBIC technologies are no longer just functioning side by side. They are actively fusing.
Fusing how?
Well, we are seeing AI and computer technology merge with biological research to create systems that could soon optimize their own production, manage their own energy use, and even handle their own waste management at a cellular level.
Wow.
It's a level of technological autonomy we have just never dealt with before.
But if these sensors can now fit inside a single human cell, they are obviously no longer just monitoring our living room temperature or our driving speed.
No, not at all.
They are crossing the biological barrier. They are going inside us. Which brings us to a phrase that sounds deeply unsettling.
The Internet of Bodies.
IOB.
The World Economic Forum has already declared that the Internet of Bodies is here. We are moving way beyond external wearables.
Just let that phrase sink in for a second if you are listening. We went from the Internet of computers to the Internet of Things, and now the Internet of Us.
And the data for this network is gathered using the Internet of Bio-Nanothings.
Bio-Nanothings.
Right. These are ingestible or absorbable nanoparticles. They're often made of highly conductive materials like gold, silver, or graphene.
Okay.
And once they're inside the body, they act as internal sensors, reading biological states in real time.
Here's where it gets really interesting. And frankly, I need an ELI 5 here. Because if someone absorbs these gold or graphene nanoparticles, say they are in drinking water or food packaging or inhaled from the air, how exactly does the data get transmitted out of the body to the internet?
It's a great question.
I mean, there is no tiny lithium battery in a stray gold nanoparticle, right?
Definitely not.
And there is no microscopic microchip with a Wi-Fi antenna bolted to it. So how does the information physically escape the bloodstream?
The mechanics of it actually come down to fundamental physics, specifically electromagnetic wave interactions.
Okay.
These nanoparticles don't need a traditional internal power source. Data is read out using principles like scattering, absorption, or reflection.
Wait, scattering. Let's translate that. Are you saying an external tower acts like a sonar system? Like it pings the gold particle in my bloodstream and reads the echo to know what is happening?
That's actually a highly accurate analogy, yeah. External electromagnetic waves bounce off or interact with these internal nanoparticles.
Wow.
And depending on the biological environment the particle is currently in, the oxygen level of the blood, or the presence of a specific protein, the way the wave reflects or scatters changes.
I see.
Then the external receiver reads that changed signal and decodes it into biological data.
But what kind of external receiver can ping a single nanoparticle inside a human vein? I mean, that sounds impossible.
Well, the infrastructure is already being built. The research highlights that 5G and 6G mobile communication networks utilize something called beamforming technology.
Beamforming. Okay.
Yeah. Instead of broadcasting a signal in all directions, like a traditional radio tower does, beamforming focuses a highly concentrated wireless signal directly at a specific target.
Oh, wow.
And these networks operate on the exact frequency bands required to ping and read these microscopic internal sensors.
So our everyday telecommunications networks can effectively double as real-time biological scanners.
Exactly.
That alone is a massive paradigm shift. But the research doesn't stop at measuring physical health metrics like heart rates or nutrient levels. It scales up to the brain.
Right, into the cognitive sphere.
The paper introduces a field called optogenetics and nanoneurotechnologies.
This is where the convergence of biotechnology and cognitive science becomes really profound. Optogenetics is a technique that involves introducing light-sensitive particles, specifically engineered proteins, into brain cells.
Into the brain cells directly.
Yes. And once those proteins are embedded in the neurons, the actual behavior of those brain cells can be controlled just by exposing them to specific wavelengths of light.
So instead of the brain relying solely on its natural electrical sparks or chemical neurotransmitters, external light signals can act like a remote control for the neurons.
That's the reality of it. The research notes that animal testing has already proven this is highly effective.
Really?
Yeah. By pulsing light into these modified brain cells, scientists have successfully triggered intense thirst in animals, manipulated specific memories, and even induced sudden aggression, entirely on demand.
Taking the ability to sense and physically modulate brain activity and introducing it into a modern economic framework, I mean, that sounds like a recipe for a completely new type of market.
It really is. It creates what the author terms neurocapitalism.
Neurocapitalism.
Exactly. This is the literal commodification of neuronal activities. Under this model, human emotions, focus, and cognitive functions become tangible assets targeted for profit.
We already think data brokers selling our browsing history is invasive. Neurocapitalism is selling the biological precursor to the browsing histories.
Yes.
It is commodifying the chemical feeling of wanting to buy something before we even touch a keyboard.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, neurocapitalism is a massive evolutionary leap beyond our current model of surveillance capitalism.
How so?
Well, surveillance capitalism measures what you do online, right? It builds a profile to predict what you might buy tomorrow.
Sure.
Neurocapitalism shifts the paradigm from merely predicting behavior to actively engineering it. It explores the concept of featuring an actual buy button in the human brain.
A buy button in the brain, that is wild.
Yeah, utilizing synchronized emotions or subliminal biological signals to trigger a commercial action before the conscious mind even registers the decision.
If we have the technology to measure biological states and remotely influence individuals at a cellular and neurological level, what happens when governments or global corporations aggregate that kind of data for 8 billion people?
It becomes a huge scaling issue.
Yeah, where does all that data actually go?
It feeds into a mechanism called digital twins. This effectively creates a real-time control room for planet Earth.
Let's define a digital twin because it sounds like a video game concept. It is a highly accurate, constantly updating digital replica of a real-world entity.
Yes, but applied on a massive scale. We are talking about creating digital twins of individual human beings, of entire metropolitan cities, and even of the global climate.
All at once.
All at once. The purpose of building these highly detailed replicas is to run endless what-if scenarios. By testing different variables on the digital twin, institutions can predict and theoretically manage the future of the real-world counterpart.
But the sheer math involved in that is staggering. If you are trying to simulate the global economy, the shifting weather patterns, and the real-time biological states of billions of people simultaneously, a standard supercomputer would just melt.
Oh, absolutely. Which is why the convergence relies on quantum computing.
Oh, okay.
Classical computers calculate sequentially. They explore one possibility, then the next, then the next.
Right.
But quantum computers operate using non-binary states, meaning they can exist in multiple states at once. They can handle an exponentially larger parameter space.
Okay, that makes sense.
The research discusses how quantum computing supercharges these digital twins through something called multiverse optimization.
Multiverse optimization. So rather than guessing which public policy might work best and testing it out, the quantum computer simulates millions of possible futures simultaneously, looks at all the outcomes, and just selects the optimal timeline.
Essentially, yes.
It sounds remarkably like a globally networked game of SimCity run by an artificial intelligence where we are the Sims.
It's a very apt comparison. The architectural models proposed for this future, like Society 5.0 and the Planetary Health Society, operate exactly on that logic.
Society 5.0.
Right. These are frameworks where global challenges, like the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, encompassing environmental sustainability and global health, are managed by massive, automated cybernetic feedback loops.
On paper, it sounds like an incredible utopia. I mean, if a new virus emerges, the system detects the biological shift in real time through the Internet of Bodies, runs a quantum simulation to find the absolute best containment strategy, and implements it instantly.
Right, it sounds perfect.
But if algorithms are calculating and executing all the optimal choices for our health, our environment, and our economy, why would a government ever let humans vote on anything again?
And that is the tension.
Does this research suggest we are moving toward a post-voting society where human choice is mathematically obsolete?
The text describes this trajectory as a code is law approach. In a fully optimized cybernetic society, the stated goals are usually fundamentally benevolent, maximizing resource sustainability or executing precision public health, like you mentioned.
Sure.
However, the mechanism for achieving those benevolent goals relies heavily on behavioral engineering, specifically something called big nudging.
Big nudging. This ties directly back to behavioral economics, doesn't it?
It does.
We all operate using two systems of thinking: a slow, logical, critical thinking system, and a fast, intuitive, emotional reaction system.
Exactly. And big nudging and micro-targeting utilize the massive troves of behavioral data gathered from our digital twins to figure out exactly how to bypass our slow, critical thinking.
Wow.
By targeting our specific cognitive biases, algorithms can seamlessly trigger those fast, intuitive responses.
So instead of a city council debating a new traffic law in public and asking citizens to vote on it, the system just subtly alters the digital and physical environment.
Right. No debate needed.
It changes what news you see on your feed, it alters the notifications you get. Maybe it even uses subliminal physical cues through your wearable tech until you instinctively behave in the way the algorithm has calculated is best for the city.
It engineers consent without transparent democratic participation. The system bypasses the friction of debate and manages society automatically.
But a perfectly optimized algorithm-run society sounds entirely too perfect. We all know what happens when a GPS gives you bad directions because it optimized for a shorter route and you end up driving your car into a lake.
Yeah, optimization has its blind spots.
Treating human society like a giant math problem to be solved must contain severe systemic flaws.
It does. And the research heavily emphasizes the limitations of relying on black box AI to run a society. Machine learning models are incredibly powerful, but they operate as black boxes.
Right.
Even the programmers don't always know exactly how the AI arrived at its conclusion. Furthermore, they are highly prone to specific types of errors. They can hallucinate false realities.
We've seen that a lot lately.
Yeah, and they also suffer from overfitting data.
Overfitting data, meaning they look so closely at a specific data set that they memorize the random noise in that data rather than grasping the underlying reality.
Precisely, and when an AI overfits its training data, its predictions for the messy, dynamic real world become wildly inaccurate.
Because the real world isn't a clean spreadsheet. It is full of complex, unpredictable variables.
Exactly.
But beyond the technical glitches, there seems to be a massive philosophical flaw in the very idea of optimization. For an algorithm to optimize society, it first has to be given a goal function, right?
Right.
Someone has to mathematically define what good looks like so the computer knows what to aim for.
And that is the absolute crux of the issue. Many of the most vital human qualities completely defy mathematical quantification.
I mean, how do you write a line of code that quantifies human dignity?
You can't.
How do you put a numerical value on creativity or the concept of trust or love? You can't. Those qualities don't fit into a goal function.
Because they cannot be quantified, an automated system optimizing for efficiency will treat them as irrelevant variables and just ignore them.
That's chilling.
The research illustrates the danger of top-down cybernetic control by looking at historical attempts, such as Project Cybersyn in Chile during the 1970s.
What was Project Cybersyn?
It was an early attempt at a centralized cybernetic economy. The government built a central control room to gather daily data from factories across the country via telex machines.
Okay.
They were trying to optimize the entire national economy from the top down. It ultimately failed because top-down control systems cannot process the nuanced, localized realities of human life.
It's too rigid.
Exactly. The author contrasts that centralized failure with a concept called synergetics, which emphasizes decentralized, bottom-up coordination.
So what does this all mean? It means if we hand the steering wheel over to centralized algorithms and tell them to prioritize ruthless mathematical efficiency, we might actually destroy the very mechanisms that allow humanity to thrive.
That's the real danger here.
Nature doesn't work through zero-sum, top-down control. Nature thrives on random mutation. It thrives on coevolution and adapting to local environments.
Absolutely.
If we force every human action to be mathematically optimal, we completely lose serendipity. You know, the beautiful random mistakes, the chance encounters, and the inefficiencies that actually drive human innovation and resilience.
This raises an important question which really sits at the very heart of the research. Who gets to decide the goal function for humanity?
Right.
If an institution is engineering a planetary digital twin to optimize our future, whose specific version of the future are they optimizing for?
And what happens when the leadership of that institution changes or the system gets hacked? The dual-use nature of this NBIC convergence is staggering.
It is.
The exact same optogenetic trigger that could theoretically be used to calm a severe panic attack could easily be weaponized by a bad actor for cognitive warfare.
The conclusion drawn from these risks is that a pivot is urgently required. We have to move away from treating human society like an automated factory that needs to be perfectly controlled and steered.
Yeah.
Instead, technology must be designed to assist human agency, not replace it.
Does the research introduce concrete structural solutions to prevent this dystopian outcome?
It does. One is a shift toward human-AI symbiosis, where artificial intelligence is decentralized to empower individuals rather than centralized to manage them from above.
Okay, how do we do that?
The most practical tool for this is something called personal data stores, or PDS.
Personal data stores.
Yeah, they address the absolute root of the control issue, which is data ownership. Currently, your biological and behavioral data is routinely siphoned off by global corporations to feed your digital twin on their private servers.
Right, without us really knowing.
Exactly. A PDS radically alters that architecture by giving you total sovereignty over your own data.
Imagine a highly secured digital vault sitting right on your phone. If a health insurance company wants to analyze your heart rate data from your bio nanosensors to offer you a discount, they can't just buy it from a broker.
Right.
They have to knock on the door of your digital vault, request access to that specific metric for exactly 24 hours, and you get to hit approve or deny. You own your digital twin.
It shifts the power dynamic entirely. This concept is foundational to establishing neurorights.
Neurorights, that's a great term.
Yeah. Just as we have fundamental human rights protecting our physical bodies and our private property, the convergence of nanotech and neuroscience means we urgently need legal frameworks to protect the privacy and the agency of our minds.
So let's recap the incredible ground we have covered today. We started with the realization that invisible nanoscale particles could be actively tracking our biology from within, communicating through the very cell towers we use for our phones.
Which is still a lot to process.
It is. And then we traveled through the unsettling reality of neurocapitalism, where our cognitive impulses are commodified, and looked at how quantum computing could power planetary digital twins to automatically manage Society 5.0.
And we arrive at the understanding that while converging technologies offer immense, world-changing potential for global health and sustainability, treating human society as a math problem to be solved top-down carries existential risks to our free will.
Big risks.
The necessary defense against that risk is decentralized data ownership to protect human dignity.
And this matters deeply to you listening right now. Every link you click, every heart rate metric recorded by your smartwatch, every lingering second you spend scrolling through a social feed, it is all feeding the digital twin currently being built in your image.
That's the reality of it.
Understanding the convergence of these nano, neuro, and quantum technologies isn't just an academic exercise for scientists. It is the absolute prerequisite for maintaining your free will in a society that is increasingly driven by invisible algorithms.
Recognizing the systems, attempting to bypass your slow thinking and nudge your behavior is the very first step toward reclaiming your agency.
I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over as you go about your day. We talked about how these massive quantum systems are building highly accurate digital twins of everyone, running millions of simulations to predict our choices, and then subtly nudging the real world to ensure we match those predictions.
Right.
If a highly accurate digital twin of you is constantly predicting your choices, and algorithms are constantly nudging the real world to ensure you match those predictions, wait, let me rephrase that. If algorithms are constantly nudging the real world to ensure you match those predictions, at what point does your digital twin stop reflecting you and you start reflecting your digital twin? Who is really living your life?
It forces us to question whether we are the conscious authors of our own destiny or simply acting out a script already written by our data.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning those invisible systems around you. And remember, the next time you think about the internet, it might be much closer than the phone in your hand.